Well, hello and welcome to a new video. This is quite a jump in time. For you, it's been probably a day or maybe two since you last saw me, but I actually haven't filmed in a few weeks. I just got back from a 2-week vacation, which is why I'm also so much more tan than I was in my last video. Actually, the last few videos you saw had been pre-filmed before I left. And so that's how I managed to still upload while I was away. Now, as I was on vacation, I had an idea. I wanted to do something where I would get to play and swatch a few palettes with you on camera and just kind of have a fun little game with it. And so I figured what I would do quite regularly, I'm going to try to have this be a series and come back weekly, hopefully. I want to use a palette without telling you what I'm using, and then I'm just gonna make some swatches for you and you're gonna have to guess what palette I used. Now, to make this a bit more tricky, I will try to not go for the typical look that you would go for using that palette. That way I feel like it will be more fun for you to play and try to guess, and it won't be like as obvious after a couple of swatches, yes, it's this or that palette. And also that way I will actually be forced in a way to use palettes differently than I usually do and to get out of my comfort zone. And so the palette that I chose for this first episode, I actually chose it because it's one of these palettes that had me right from the start go out of my comfort zone and do things that I wouldn't normally do, and that got me a little bit like looking at the palette being like, oh, I don't really know what to do. So I felt like it was the perfect palette for a first episode of Guess the Palette. Let's go. Okay, I'm first going to swatch for you the shades that I have actually used on my eyes. So I used this shade first, kind of all over the lid. I didn't realize it was a bit more shimmery than I first thought it would be, but I applied it all over the lid very lightly just because I had applied a primer that was a bit tacky, so I didn't want the other shadows to stick to my lid. So that was kind of an all over first color. I then used this shade, which is a gorgeous mauve taupe. I love these kinds of shades. And I used it in my crease and above it. I then used this ash brown, which you will see later on in the pan. It looks awful, but it's actually a very nice ash brown that kind of goes with everything. And so I focused it mainly in my crease. And then, and that's where I definitely got out of my comfort zone, I used this red on the outer corner and also a little bit the inner corner. I did try to link these together a bit in my crease, but I didn't put too much in the middle because I went then with another shade. I used the teeniest amount of this kind of light coral to blend the red just a tiny little bit. I then used this shimmery metallic blue purple number on the center of my lids. I also used it on my lower lash line, like the outer part of my lower lash line. I used the teeniest bit of this kind of a duochrome just in here to kind of have a softer edge for that glittery shade. And then I used this light shimmery shade. I don't know if you can see much of this, right in the inner corner on my lower lash line. And that's all I used with this palette. I'm now gonna swatch for you the other shades in that palette that I didn't use. I haven't used this golden shade, which is very pretty. I haven't used this is it kind of a camel? Yeah, sorry, I'm super tan, so it's really not looking the way it usually does on my skin tone. I also didn't use this kind of taupish metallic. I also didn't use this beautiful glittery shade, so it's kind of purple. It has a bunch of glitter in it. And then I also didn't use these two very creamy metallic glittery shade. So in total, this palette has 14 shades. There's a mix of matte and shimmers. There's a few different formulas in there. And if you haven't guessed it by now, drum roll, the palette I have on my eyes is the ABH Carly Bible palette. Now this is what it looks like. So like I said, I have used, so that was the all over shade. This is the shade Bear, Bible, kind of in the crease and above. Bois, I don't know how you pronounce it, focused in the crease. Now this color in particular, when you look at it in the pan, it looks ugly. It really looks like an ugly color, you know? It kind of looks a little bit like greenish brown, like it's a poop color. I don't know how to say it otherwise. It just looks ugly. I had never dipped a brush or a finger in that particular eyeshadow before, which is why I'm so glad I started this series, because it kind of forced me to go in a direction I wouldn't have gone without this kind of a video. Because in fact, when you do swatch it and when you do apply it to the eye, it's a nice ash brown. I don't know why it reads so differently in the palette and on your skin, but it's actually a nice color. I then used this red Stev, which it looks super intimidating, but it's actually, it can be pigmented and very red if you pack it on, but it blends easily. And as you can see, like, it's a touch of red, but it's not like crazy pink eye red, you know? And then I blended that shade a little bit with the shade Cindy. I then put Jode on the center of my lid and also on that part of my lower lash line. And then the shade Bali just in here. This palette was released soon after, like, ABH released a bunch of Norvina palettes, and it was kind of like release on top of release on top of release. It was very overwhelming. I remember a lot of people talking about it in a negative way at that time, saying it was just too much. And so when this got released, it kind of, at least for me, kind of went under the radar. I was like, I'm not gonna say I wasn't paying attention to ABH anymore, but it was just kind of like, great, another eyeshadow palette. And also the color story confused me. I remember seeing it and thinking, like I just said, I don't know what to do with it. It just doesn't really make sense. It's not cohesive. It's just, it looks like a bunch of random colors put together. And then when I was working at Sephora, this is how bad my logic is when it comes to buying on sale products. This went on sale for 30% off. I was working at Sephora, and so as an employee, I had a 30% discount. So I could have gotten it on my employee discount, but somehow the fact that it was on sale for the same percentage off, I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get it. I know, it makes no sense. I did get extra percentage because I think it was at the end of the sale where, you know, if you buy 3 items, you get like 20% discounted, whatever. My logic was, it's on sale. I love the ABH formula. I'm gonna get it. And I did, and I honestly was not disappointed. I feel like it's one of these palettes that I buy and I'm like, I don't really know why I bought it. And it ends up being a palette I really, really enjoy. First of all, like I said, I do enjoy ABH eyeshadow formula. I like the fact that there's a bunch of different finishes in here. So you have your mattes, of course, they're powdery. It's the way that it works with ABH. I personally don't mind, but it's maybe not the most user-friendly for some. And then there's some shimmers, there's some metallics, there's like those very like creamy, super metallic shimmery shades. There's the Mandala shade that's a bit of a duochrome. It's kind of more of a topper, I would say. So this is definitely an interesting palette, and this shade, Bible, I love. I love taupe shades like that. So all in all, I think that this is a very nice palette when it comes to the formula. When it comes to the colors, I feel like you can do quite a bunch of things. As I was preparing for this video, I went online and checked when it was released, and it was in October 2019. And as I was checking the date, I saw a picture on the ABH website, I will try to put it here, where they have a picture of the shadows all next to each other, and the way that they are put together on that picture, for some reason, makes so much more sense. I think the biggest issue with the color story in this palette is just the way it's put together. Somehow it feels random, but when you think about it, it's not. It's really not. I don't know why. When I look at this, I mean, it's pretty. There are very pretty shades, but I look at this and I'm a bit confused. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I feel like it might be a good thing for me and for you to be confused by this palette, because like I said, it then pushes you to get out of your comfort zone and to use colors that you wouldn't normally use, or to combine colors together that you wouldn't have thought of. Definitely, this is not a look I typically do, but I'm very happy that I did, and I enjoy the way it turned out. I believe this was limited edition, so I'm not sure that you can still get it, but if you can, I think it's a nice eyeshadow palette. It's maybe not the most everyday kind of palette. I mean, if you compare it to, let's say, Soft Glam, I'm guessing that someone who's new at makeup and just uses makeup, you know, on an everyday basis just to do a quick look will be more attracted to a palette like Soft Glam and will be a bit like intimidated by this one. But I mean, yeah, it's actually a nice color story when you do think about it. It does require some sitting down, looking at the shadows, swatching them together, and, you know, thinking about it to kind of figure out exactly what you can do with this palette, but you can actually do quite a lot. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoyed playing. If you did, make sure to give this video a thumbs up. You can also subscribe to my channel, and since it's free, just, you know, go ahead. Why wouldn't you? And I will see you guys next time. Bye.